and welcome to Age of Geek. I'm Robert,
I'm Collin.
and tonight we are joined by the newest member of the Age of Geek family,
Woohoo!
James.
Hey, everybody. It's me, James.
Welcome aboard the crew, James.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be a new member of the crew.
Delighted to have you.
Because, for those that don't know James is as
James is
big,
James.
if not maybe even a bigger Star Wars buff than I am.
Well, sometimes I would actually say probably not with our conversation we had about the what were we talking about?
The High Republic.
The High Republic book. Just because the High Republic books, I loved listening to them while I worked at Target, but then I got a new job and just lost track of listening to them. Now I was telling Colin I have to start them all over again just so I remember what's going on. But I do love Star Wars.
I love it. We would have never guessed.
No, not a lot of people. Yeah, the hat, the Boba Fett, the tattoo, the ring that has the Rebel Alliance logo, my Bob's Burgers art back here, my prototype Boba Fett toy right there. Wait, over there.
Yep.
Somewhere.
Nobody.
No, it doesn't scream geek at all.
Yeah, no.
Well, once again, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you.
Well, guys, we did it. Another May the 4th.
Another May the 4th has come, gone. The Force has been with us. And we should probably talk about some Star Wars stuff.
We should. Should we talk news first, though, before we dive into...
Get a couple of non-Star Wars related things out of the way. I found an interesting thing that, excuse me, John Watts, who directed Spider-Man No Way Home, is putting his name into the fedora to direct the next Nightmare on Elm Street film.
Okay.
So that could be interesting.
Well, I saw a terrible rumor about someone wanting to direct Wolverine.
As long as the name does not rhyme with Zack Snyder, we're good.
It was Zack Snyder.
Oh, no.
He said, and I quote, "Now that is a character that I know and can do."
No,
I'm just like, given your history, I think you've done enough for the superhero universe. I think you can sit down and never touch a superhero film ever again. It would be great.
I don't think we need 3 hours with an hour and a half of slow-mo. Wolverine just
deconstructing Wolverine.
Yeah. Some black and white scenes popped in there.
Just sad. It'll be interesting to see what happens in Deadpool and Wolverine here in a little bit.
Quite though. We were about 2.5 months out.
Yep.
So close.
I just want it now.
Very close.
Just want it now.
So very close. Jumping ship to the DC side, we finally got our first look at the new Superman costume, which is inspired by the New 52 costume that was so controversial. And
why was it so controversial?
One of the things was, why does Superman need armor?
Yeah, and it's very padded.
So, to me, it looks. He's sitting down. It's not the best lighting of the shot, so I'm willing to give it a benefit of the doubt.
Now, in that picture, there's this giant sphere and this glowing beam. Any idea what that is?
If I had to guess, going with DC lore, I would go Brother Eye. But that is the closest thing that I can think of, because it doesn't look like a Brainiac ship at all. There are no tentacles or anything. It does look like a skull. So I would have to guess Brother Eye because it looks like a giant eyeball.
Okay.
But that raises a lot of other questions of, are they going the New 52 route with Batman and or Maxwell Lord being in charge of Brother Eye, or Be Still My Heart? Are they going the Jack Kirby? We're getting OMAC somewhere in this, with Brother Eye turning either one person or multiple people into OMACs. So, curious to see how that turns out.
Do you think that if they went the OMAC route, that would like kind of conflict with what they did in Blue Beetle?
A little.
Because didn't James Gunn say that they were going to kind of like retcon that a little bit to fit Jaime Reyes into his universe?
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out if they go that route. But maybe Core Technology reworked it and has turned Omex to a force for good. The way Jack Kirby intended.
Yes.
Well, can I say, just looking at this like Superman costume, like the picture that was shared, I love how with that spear in the background, how it looks like he is very slowly putting his boots on.
Yeah, like really casual. Just like, I got a minute. I'm good.
It's like, yeah, it takes me 0.5 seconds to get over it.
Yeah.
But I can have a coffee after I put this boot on.
An extra second or two isn't going to stall.
I'm Superman.
I get this.
It's like, do we catch him in the middle of a super speed change?
Right.
And it's like, no, I'm just centrally putting on this boot.
Like, I just took the trash out. I just got comfortable. I got to put this back on again.
Yes.
So we will see how that, how much shapes up from that. But it's our first official look. We've seen the logo. We've seen some of the cast. So now we've seen the super costume. So hopefully this is a taste of things to come. And I do have faith in James Gunn and his love for the character and his ability to not give us Man of Steel 2.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing with James Gunn as a director is he throws himself into what he's doing. Like you look at Guardians of the Galaxy, all three of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you take
the good, you take the bad, you take them both. I'm sorry, wrong.
Yeah. But like you look at it, he took like, these 5 characters that not a lot of people knew a lot about.
Oh, true.
And like during that time when he was starting to do that, like the comics started leaning towards that 5 as the core Guardians.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like even then, like it wasn't a top seller for Marvel at the time.
And I think that was a smart move, though. And I think that Marvel, in that sense, did a great job of taking characters that people have heard the name, but don't really have a lot of association with it unless you're a diehard comic fan, and use those to test the waters. Because they did that with Iron Man and, struck gold.
Right.
And doing it again with the Guardians, I mean, let's face it. James Gunn made you care about a tree and a trash panda.
Yeah.
And made you bawl over it.
And made you cry over them.
Every single movie.
Yeah. So, like, I won't say he captured a particular kind. He did capture kind of particular lightning in a bottle, but he also proved he was good at it.
Well, and then you look at, like, Suicide Squad. Like, his Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad.
The Suicide Squad.
The Ohio State Suicide Squad University.
But you look at how much better that was than the David Ayer's one.
David Ayer version, yeah. You mean the Harley and Deadshot show?
Yeah, but like it was kind of the same thing that he did with Guardians, where he took this group of characters and kind of made you care about them, even though they are villains.
Yeah.
But I think the thing though too is like, I think that's why I'm excited to see where he goes with this direction that he's taking DC into. I'm I'm excited to see what is it. So a year from now, almost, when Superman comes out.
Yeah. So we have a little bit of time to wait.
Yeah.
And be teased with hopefully just enough to keep us curious and hungry and wanting to see it. And I think that he's done that well because he's proven with other franchises and other media that he's done that he can entice you with just the barest little tidbits to make you go, I'm curious, and get you put butts in seats.
Right. Yep. Well, and then you have to think about too, like along with this, they're filming season 2 of Peacemaker as well. So you have a bunch of DC stuff that's going to be coming out soonish. So it's an exciting time.
It is. And lastly, the producers of the Gen V series from the Boys spinoff on Amazon have declared that they will not recast Chance Perdomo's role, and they'll find a way to, write him out of the show and make it organic for how they, what they do with going forward.
Yeah, and he was such a good part of that show too. Like,
very unfortunate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. We have jumped well past 426, but we haven't gotten to 524, which is Tal Day for Douglas Adams fans. But we should probably talk about May the 4th and all of the things Star Wars.
With that, I do have a little bit of Star Wars news.
Oh, do tell.
So Disney is celebrating the 25th anniversary of the prequels, of course. The Phantom Menace. Oh, come on. You're not one of them, are you, Robert? You're not a prequel hater, are you?
I am a prequel. I am not the prequel's biggest fan. I will say that as they got closer to Revenge of the Sith, I became more of a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Each movie, for me, oh crap, Phantom Menace, that's what it is. Duh. Didn't it felt like it was trying to be a Star Wars movie, but for me, just didn't catch. And this is having friends stand in line because was working a job that did not allow me to go and sit in lines for days on end to get tickets for it. But I did, I did go and buy, I think, like 3 of the movie posters, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And I was honestly a little bit disappointed with, actually I was a lot disappointed with the movie when it came out, seeing it in the theater, to the point that I pretty much vowed never to watch it again. And then I had kids, and they started watching Star Wars, and we had to show them the prequels, and guess what they had to see? So, but
well,
as we moved through the series, they felt more and more like what I expected a Star Wars movie to feel like. So by the time we got to Revenge of the Sith, it felt to me like a Star Wars movie.
Okay. Well, I thought Phantom Menace was everything when it came out, because I had been the hugest Star Wars fan growing up. Never got to see it in theaters, right? But when that movie came out, our parents ended up winning tickets to see the film at the midnight showing, which midnight showings back then were like a huge thing.
Right? They were midnight.
Yeah. You got to see it before everyone else. It wasn't this like nowadays in Utah, like Utah specifically, or in a couple other states, you see it like the day before the actual release. And so you don't do midnight showings anymore. But that was like the hugest thing. And my favorite Sith Lord ever is Darth Maul.
I only laugh because that's one of my biggest complaints about.
No!
No. thought that the character of Darth Maul was fine. No problem there. But you put him on all of your merchandise. He is the biggest face on there for all of their stuff other than
Ta-da! You mean this face?
That face right there. Other than a young Jake Lloyd.
Yeah.
That face.
Yep, that face.
And then, halfway through the movie, we cut him in half. Now, granted, he came back. But
he comes back 10 times.
Well, but the thing is, but not.
There's no killing this guy.
But not again in the prequels. And so you've built him up as the baddest person in space, and then you just cut him in half, drop him down an exhaust chute. The end.
Well, so I think with Darth Maul though, we were watching the prequels, we were watching Phantom Menace, and the interesting thing when you see Maul take out Qui-Gon, you get this look from Obi-Wan, and you see him you see the hate in his eyes toward Darth Maul. So in my mind, you kind of see him tapping into the dark side a little bit, which makes that fight mean a little bit more, in my opinion. Which is the only reason why I think he's able to beat Maul, because he's not he's a master saber fighter, but nowhere near Darth Maul, in my opinion.
Well, I think that he's a master swordsman or saberman, sure, but I think that Maul had both that and just the sheer ferocity with which he fought.
Yeah,
right. And not even the hatred and not even anger, but just sheer, just
animal,
raw animal. And you could look at it when he was, when the force fields between them, Qui-Gon, went up, and he stalks Qui-Gon like an animal, just watching him and staring him down.
Yeah.
So I think that you do have something there with Obi-Wan going, I gotta go a little dark side for this.
Yeah, he's I have to fight essentially as dirty as this guy.
Yeah.
And the funny thing you think about, so there's a huge kind of linear thing with, in Phantom Menace, Darth Maul has the high ground, and then you go fast forward to Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan has the high ground, and you kind of see similar motion in Anakin, the way Anakin jumps to try to get over Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar motion when Obi-Wan jumped over Maul. And so I feel like there's a lot of things that tie together in those movies that once you watch all of them as a whole, and when you're watching them back to back to back, I think it kind of is just an awesome, complete thing that kind of, for me, counteracts any negativity in bad dialogue or things like that.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, and two, in Rebels, the ending scene between him and Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan ultimately wins and takes out Maul for good, you can see that Obi-Wan takes up his master's stance in that fight, and then catches Maul off guard and quickly changes stances.
Yeah,
mid-fight to get him.
Yeah,
he goes in fully mindset of, all right, I'm gonna beat him just like I beat his master. This is my revenge, and then he changes up, and
that is probably one of my favorite sequences in Rebels. Is starts off with and then switches to his little, and you're just like, oh man. But I will say this though, going to the prequels. So when we were watching it, I will say the best, hands down, the best lightsaber battle, Anakin Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. Yeah.
Yeah.
More so than Yoda and Palpatine.
Yes. like the funny thing is, like, we were talking about this when we were watching. I was like, Yoda would probably be the worst Jedi to fight because he's just jumping around like a baby kangaroo, just swinging and kicking.
Yeah, you got to be on your game, like predicting every single move.
Yeah, but like just and then like you look at computer animation versus the training that Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor had to do to get those movements down. I've been messing around with lightsabers for years, and I can't do those flourishes that they do. And it's just so amazing just seeing that. Like, there's that scene where they're like just going back and forth, just swinging their lightsabers at each other behind their backs and everything. You're just like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah. It's insane. Here's a little throwback picture for you guys. Can you tell who's on the far right? This was taken by the newspaper at the opening of Revenge of the Sith. We ended up ditching school for the whole day, and we were camped out in line. We were first in line to get tickets.
Nice.
It was pretty great.
I think when we went to go see
nerdy Jedi.
When we went to go see it, my friends and I ran to Walmart and bought lightsabers before the screening. And then, we showed up at them, and I lived in a small town, so it was really easy to get in. But the theater was packed, and we were all in different parts of the theater. And right as soon as the credits started rolling, like, our lightsabers had, it was the first year that they put like lights in the lightsabers.
Yeah.
So we turn on our lightsabers and we're jumping seats to like go fight each other in the theater. And the ushers like, get off the seats, and we're just like swinging lightsabers at each other.
Oh, it's amazing.
Fun.
So much fun.
So good.
All right. Well, I guess we should keep going with Star Wars. There's a couple of projects that have just ended. Well, there's one that just ended, The Bad Batch.
Yep.
So good.
And I have very little to say about The Bad Batch, to the point of having nothing to say, because I am behind on my animated Star Wars fare. I am familiar with the concept.
That's okay.
So I'm going to let you two lead the conversation here about The Bad Batch and how it ended and what they meant for the mythology of Star Wars.
So I think the thing to like think about with Bad Batch is you go back to the first episode. The first episode takes place pretty much as Order 66 is being given.
You literally have Emperor Palpatine like on Camino giving a speech about the new empire and what it means going forward. And was he on Camino, or did he send a representative and it was a recording? I can't remember.
It was a recording because it was the same recording that you see Commander Cody get in.
That's right.
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, so like with episode 1, you actually have a Rebels tie-in because the Jedi and Padawan that the Bad Batch are kind of helping with their clones is Kanan Jarrus and his master. And in that first episode, the Bad Batch crew, they're the only ones who aren't affected by the implant telling them to kill the Jedi. So they're trying to protect Kanan and get him to a safe place. But like you go from there to this whole series of just like, small missions and stuff like that just to kind of stay alive. Like a lot of their missions in the first season is just how are we going to pay for gas this week?
Yeah.
Like, we need to get this bounty so we can get fuel and get food. Then it turns into this thing where, oh crap, there's this Boba Fett like clone who is a female who doesn't age like the rest of us clones.
Yeah.
And now we're going to protect her. But like you get toward the end of Bad Batch and you start getting tie-ins to Rise of Skywalker, because there's the whole thing with Project Necromancer, which is the project that you see that brings back Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker, and that this young clone is the key to moving that project forward.
Yeah, which there were some pieces that were kind of weird to me on this. Number one is M count, right? We assume M count to them is midichlorians, but it's also never specifically stated as midichlorians, right?
Thank God.
So weird. But we do get a moment where we see an old friend from the Clone Wars that everyone presumed was just dead, right? I always forget how to say her first name, Ventress. Asajj Ventress. You know, we see her come back, and she's basically testing Omega to see if she does in fact wield the Force, which we see maybe like a little tiny bit, but we don't really see anything come of it, which is kind of weird, kind of a bummer from that standpoint. But that M count is what we presume Emperor Palpatine is looking for in his clones, because if a clone successfully has midichlorians, then that's proven that a clone can carry that gene. And so that's what they're trying to do. But at the end of Bad Batch, the facility's destroyed. Tarkin comes in and says, move all the funds over to Project Stardust, which is for the Death Star, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Hemlock is presumed dead, but you know, as all Star Wars deaths,
did you see a body?
He just falls and
like 300 feet.
Yeah,
Anakin
but
fell 300 feet into a speeder,
and Palpatine went way down, and Darth Maul went down. You know, some
cut in half
pit of doom.
Down.
Yeah.
But do you remember the tale of Darth Plagueis?
Darth Plagueis the Wise.
I'm just saying, if you have the Force, you can hold yourself together.
You're right, and
like Mace Windu. That's right, I said it.
Mace Windu, he's alive. We all know he's alive.
He's hanging out with Tupac.
Right. But then all the data is destroyed. There's no data left of the research. They destroyed all the databanks. So
how did they continue?
How did they continue it?
Cloud backup. Duh.
Right. Well, it's a secure lockdown facility that no one can get in or out of, supposedly.
So is Scarif. I'm just saying.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
No, and like it's interesting though, because like you have this whole thing, like you were saying, everything's destroyed, but there has to be people who know what's going on, like the doctor who took over for the clone doctor and Nala Se, the Kaminoan doctor.
Yeah.
She's still alive. Like that droid didn't kill her, it just put her to sleep. So
yeah,
she still has a data pad that has information on it. It's probably partial information, but I think that they kind of leave it open-ended, that like, oh, there's possibilities for how they got this data.
Yeah.
Here's another thought. Do you think they only had one research facility? I mean, it's the Empire.
True, they could have had others, but where Hemlock was just at this facility.
Yeah, Hemlock is like their Krennic from Rogue One.
Yeah.
So he's like mainly in charge. Like this is his main job.
Yeah. So it's hard to say because really all their big research people were there. I mean, they had the clone, or not the clone, the Camino and Nala there, right? Like,
yeah.
Everything makes it seem like it was a super secret project like that. But we've also seen in Mandalorian, with what's his name? Why am I forgetting his name?
Which one?
Moff Gideon.
Oh yeah.
Moff Gideon had his own clones.
Yeah.
But they didn't have mustaches, but but they were clones.
He was trying to breed them with the Force as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes you wonder though, like because what they didn't ever really destroy was the cloning facility on Camino. At least I don't think they did. I can't remember if they did or not.
I don't remember them destroying.
But you still have like all the data that they've had from the years of having clones and their Camino research.
Yeah.
And that's all on the Republic's databases because they were still the Republic at that time. So it wouldn't be hard for someone like Moff Gideon to get access to all the databases from Camino that were probably stored somewhere on Coruscant.
Oh, they took all their assets. That's what they did. They emptied the facility.
Okay.
On Camino.
Yeah. So, they have all that research, and all they're doing is they're looking for the M count. They're looking for that M count to stabilize their clones. So, it's one of those things that you can see them having a workaround for how Moff Gideon learned how to do his thing. What I will say, though, with these season finales that they've had of Bad Batch is you pretty much think everybody's going to die. Like, it has that vibe where it's like, you don't see any of these people throughout the saga ever again. So they're going to die.
Well, and I was confused because I could have sworn Tech was going to come back.
Oh, no.
When he died, I didn't think he was dead. Yeah, but they didn't show a body. Well, they showed his glasses that were blasted when he got hidden.
Yeah.
In the face.
Yeah.
I mean, getting hit in the face is pretty fatal, but still. I don't know. We've seen worse things come from Star Wars and people surviving. So
I mean,
it wouldn't have surprised me.
Yeah,
get thrown down an exhaust board with Force lightning.
Right? I still expected him to come back, or for Hemlock. Like there was this one scene in the last episode where you have the helmet going over like their new big bad that they just released out of that chamber, and I was like, that's Tech.
That's what I thought too.
They reprogrammed him.
Yeah.
That's why they're not showing a face. But then they never show a face.
No, but
and I'm just like, why didn't you show a face?
What you do see though is you see they're wearing similar armor to what Crosshair wears after. So that Crosshair worked with that team, that he was part of that elite squad. Which makes it when they cut his hand off more significant.
Yep.
Which destroyed me because I was like, not his hand. We don't need this. You cut off too many hands.
It's a Star Wars thing,
which
and a Marvel thing.
Why not just rebuild his hand at that point?
Yeah. But it's when they did. So actually, when they did the post-ending scene, because it does that kind of classic Star Wars thing where it's like, this is the end. Wipe. Just kidding. Here's another scene. When they did that, I thought that's where you were going to see Hemlock like climbing up the mountain, like, I survived.
I survived.
I George of the Jungle did up here.
I did like how in that ending scene. Sorry, Robert, I'm destroying this for you.
Go right ahead.
But it shows this blonde, young adult woman,
Zori Bliss,
trying to sneak off of a ship, and it's Omega, and then you see Hunter. Old man Hunter sitting right outside the ship saying, "Where do you think you're going? Like you thought I got rusty?"
Well, and like my favorite thing is when she says the rebellion needs pilots, and you're like, oh no.
And
like,
you know exactly what fight that she's going into at that moment. Like she is going into that final fight in Rise of Skywalker.
You're just like, this is amazing.
Which I really hope that they...
Is it Rise of Skywalker or is it Return of the Jedi? Do you think it's the second Death Star? Because you look at the timeline of it.
Oh, yeah.
The timeline of it. So Bad Batch starts at the end of... Yeah.
It does. Yeah, you're right.
So I think
she would have been a lot older at Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's either you either got Yavin, the Battle at Yavin 4, or
Return of the Jedi.
And I'm thinking just with the age the perceived age of Omega, because from Revenge of the Sith to New Hope, it's supposed to be 19 years.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that that's kind of more like it's most likely she's going to Yavin 4, to the Rebel base, to just like meet up with people and fight the Death Star.
Which would be really cool to see a series in that time frame, and she's just out there hanging out with Wedge and
got like the Ghost crew bring the rebels in. But yeah, that whole series I think is just amazing. But that series, we were talking about this earlier, the end of Bad Batch brings an end to the Clone Wars, the Clone Saga.
Yeah.
Like you had, I think it was May of 2002 is when Clone Wars, the animated series, started. And it lasted till 22 years of just clone content, and now we get nothing.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder where they go at this point, because that's their last real big animated series right now, right? Outside of Young Jedis, which is more for kids.
Yeah. Well, and like I think where you go from here animated wise is you go into things like Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, where you don't have to tell seasons worth of stories. You can pick and choose characters to give glimpses of their lives. So like if you want to like transition into like Tales of the Empire, you look into like the Tales of the Empire, they have 3 episodes following one character and then 3 episodes following the other. And it's, snippets of this person's life. So, the first 3 episodes of Tales of the Empire, you're following Morgan Elsbeth, who, if you watched Mandalorian and Ahsoka, she is the magistrate who is trying to find Thrawn. And you see her time in Tales of the Empire. You see her time as like a youth on Dathomir, and you see Grievous come in and just wipe out her clan of Night Sisters. And then you're introduced to the Mountain Clan, who the Mountain Clan, if you don't know, is a Legends group. So this is, again, Dave Filoni dipping into that Legends content that people freaked out that they were never going to touch.
Yep.
But so you look at Dathomir and you have light and dark sides. You have the Night Sisters their magic is more dark side of the Force, and then you have the Mountain Clan whose magic is more light side of the Force. And you see how powerful like the Mountain Clan is in this when they like just take out a wave of Grievous's droid army. But you kind of see that first episode, Morgan Elsbeth go from this kid who lost her whole clan to somebody who essentially wants revenge for what happened to the Night Sisters. And I think it's episode 2. She is a little bit older. She's a magistrate now, and she's trying to sell modified ships to the Empire. So Separatists are gone. It's the Empire now. And in this whole thing, like she's trying to bring jobs to Corvus, which is the planet she's the magistrate over. And like that sale doesn't go the way she wants it to. Her people want to rebel against her. And we see Admiral Thrawn, so not Grand Admiral yet, just Admiral Thrawn, show up and lend his support and like, hey, you need to shut this down and kind of do your thing. And then you see, you get another jump in episode 3 where now the New Republic is taking over. So this is more right before you meet her in Mandalorian. This is kind of like right before then, where the New Republic is on Corvus because the Empire is defeated, and they're trying to add Corvus to the New Republic. They're trying to offer their protection to Corvus. And, she does the thing that she does. She's like, no, I'm not giving up my power. And she kills everybody. And you get a nice little Bo-Katan voiceover in there. But do you have anything to add about those first 3 episodes, Colin?
Not really. You pretty much hit around the dot. I mean, the piece that I want to see that we didn't really get to see is how she got her powers back. Because at this point, her people are destroyed on Dathomir. You saw her symbols fade away. The powers left her. Yet people still call her the witch in this time frame, right? And we didn't see any kind of abilities used in her fight against the Mandalorian. So it leaves you to believe that she hasn't found Mother yet, right?
Yeah. Well, I think with going from where you see her in Tales of the Empire to when you get to the end of Ahsoka, where she has her powers and she's using that to kind of track where Thrawn is. I think a lot of that is, what is his name? Can't think of his name right now. The bearded guy in Ahsoka.
Oh, Baron Skull?
Yes. I think there's a lot of that's him helping her tap into that magic, because if you remember, like in Clone Wars, when they have the Night Sisters, they talk about how close Dathomirian magic is to using the dark side of the Force.
Yeah. True.
And so I think that a lot of that is him like being like, hey, meditate a little bit, get that hate and anger up and tap into the darkness to get those powers back.
Yeah.
And I think that mostly it's just trying to get her to connect with, the Night Sisters that are with Thrawn.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of one of those things where it's like,
okay.
It's not a big jump, but I could see that being their explanation for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we are 45 minutes in. We're not wanting to make this an all-nighter, an all-night kegger. What should we talk about next? Like the Acolyte?
Well, so real quick though, with the last 3 episodes of
those are pretty big episodes.
It's 6 episodes. The last 3 episodes follow because I believe what is her name?
Barriss.
She's the one with Ahsoka in Clone Wars, right? The one that
she is, yeah.
Gets taken by the dark side, and there's that leads into the whole.
Yep, she was the traitor during the bombing, and
and that leads to the whole Mortis arc, which brings in the dark, the light, and the neutral. But you follow her and the beginnings of the Inquisitors that you see in Rebels. So Barriss becomes one of the first Inquisitors. And like Colin and I were talking about how the thing with like animated Star Wars right now is this is probably the most violent era of children's Star Wars that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like you see Barriss like choke someone out and crack their windpipe with force choke. Like you hear the snap and the guy just like fall lifeless into a pit.
Yeah, I usually watch like all these animated ones with my son. Luckily he didn't watch that episode. But and my son's 5, almost 6. But we were watching the second episode and he did not like it. He was like, I don't like seeing the bad guys like this.
Yeah.
Because it's dark.
Well, like Barriss is, I guess you would call one of the sisters for the Inquisitors, just demolishes a town of unarmed people.
Yeah.
Because they lied to her. And you see her just like swinging that lightsaber and people fall, and you're like, they would have never shown this 20 years ago at the beginning of Clone Wars.
Well, and then there's the kid, and you literally think that the sister is going to go straight for that kid after, and he's just hiding behind Barriss.
Yeah.
For dear life, and surprisingly, she lets the kid go.
Yeah.
And I thought in that moment, either she's going to have Barriss try to take care of the kid, make that decision, or Lynn's just going to do it. But they didn't. Yeah. I was surprised.
Well, and like I think with that, they're trying to find a Jedi in this village, and when the kid tells them where the Jedi is, fast forward, they like start fighting this Jedi because they're trying to kill all the Jedi. And Barriss convinces him to drop his lightsaber and to turn himself in. And then Lynn comes out of nowhere and slices him in the back. Yeah. And they have this little conversation where, Barriss is like, hey, he was giving up. He was surrendering. And Lynn just says, the Jedi are too dangerous to be alive. We need to kill them. Essentially, we need to kill them where they stand. And that's when you have this switch just flip in Barriss. And it's my favorite thing when she's just like, well, then you have one more Jedi to deal with.
Yeah.
And she just force pushes Lynn
off the edge.
And you're just like, holy hell, this is amazing. But then the last episode, so I think you get a small jump from episode 1 to episode 2 for Barriss. But episode 2 to episode 3, I would say is like a 5-10 year jump, maybe even more. Because Barriss is older. Barriss is now a healer.
Much older.
And
which I think that feeds into her being a healer.
Yeah.
Because when there's this family that comes in and they're holding this little child and they're saying that the child is sick. Because this is at the point where the Empire is wrangling up all these kids that are force
which ties
sensitive.
into Bad Batch.
Yep, which ties into Bad Batch, but also ties into them training people to become brothers and sisters and they basically say, you know, we sought you out because we hear that you're this healer, and she says, well, your child isn't sick. Yeah. And so there's two parts of this. One, she's aging so quickly because she's giving part of her life force to heal others. Because whenever a Jedi uses force healing, it takes part of them. Right. And then the second part is that she's just trying to give safe passage. And so it goes back to the Obi-Wan series, and also part of Jedi Survivor, where they're trying to get people to safety. They're trying to find a place for them to go, and so they're, what are they called? The pathway, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. But then you know, she, all of a sudden we see Lynn, the sister, back, and she ended up surviving that fall because, you know, you're never dead. And there's this huge icy pathway that the family is trying to make it out of, and you see Barriss like stepping in front of Lynn, trying to reason with her and stop them from going in, and Barriss is just a badass during this moment. Like, she's dodging every single lightsaber hit. She can just tell every move.
And it's very reminiscent of like Luke versus Kylo Ren in Last Jedi.
Yep.
When, even though it's just a force projection of Luke, how he's like just like dodging all of Kylo Ren's attacks.
Yep.
So it's like one of those things where it's like, I'm not gonna fight you.
Yeah.
But I
doesn't
also
even have a lightsaber.
Yeah, like, just like, oh nope, can't touch me. But one thing real quick with, so we're talking about the M count.
Yeah.
So Barriss actually talks to the family about that with their little kid, and the mom, I think, is like, so you're saying our child's a Jedi? And Barriss says, no, your child has the potential. So I think that's the thing that Asajj tries, going back to that batch, Asajj tries to tell the clones, is like, no, she's not a Jedi, but she could be with training. Anyway, continue.
So Barriss ends up letting her go after the family because she's like, if you go into this icy cave, you will not find your path out, and warns her of that. The family ends up escaping. Lynn's super pissed because she can't now get out of here. She's stuck in this place. And then you have Barriss saying, I can help you, but you need to put down your lightsaber. You need to get to a point where we can bring you out of this state you're in. You need to not rely on the dark side. You need to come back to the light. And there's this moment where she's talking, all of a sudden you hear the audio switch to where it was echoing, and now it's like she's right behind her. And Lynn, you can almost see on her face that she's tempted to stop. But right as she hears her voice, she's swinging and hits her.
Hits Barris right in the chest.
And Barris is like, you can get out of here. You don't need me. You just need to remember. You need to remember the light.
Well, and I think one of my favorite lines from that whole thing is when Lynn says, "There's no way out of here," and Barris says, "That's what the Empire wants you to believe."
Yep.
That there's no way out. But that whole kind of series, I think that's what you're going to see going forward, animation-wise. You're going to see these small snippets of characters' lives because they have so many characters that they can go through and give you little glimpses of what they did during if they were alive during the Clone Wars, what they were doing during the Clone Wars, what they were doing during Episode 4, what they were doing at the end of Return of the Jedi, and you could do that with all these characters that they're bringing in with the High Republic. You could do it with the sequel trilogy. Like, there's so many people that they could do these with. I think that's what the future of Star Wars animation is.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into to Acolyte, because that trailer dropped, just within the last week here, and
Saturday.
I think so. Saturday morning.
Yeah.
On May on the 4th.
And really, Acolyte it's during the Prime era, right? It's during the High Republic.
Mm-hmm.
So this is 200 years, something like that, before the Battle of Yavin, right?
Approximately 100 years before Phantom Menace.
Okay. And this is supposed to be prime time. This is supposed to be where the Jedi are thriving. They're living. They have a good bond with the Republic to where they are working hand in hand in not only just being Jedi, right, but they've got a hand in politics as well. It's not necessarily just focusing on being a voice of reason. It's
Peacekeepers.
Exactly. They work very hand in hand. There's a Jedi on every single ship that the Republic puts out to help guide it. Yep,
pretty much.
Exactly. And so what we end up seeing in the trailer is the first bit of was referred to as the Acolytes, which are these Sith-like beings, right? That are coming and opposing against the Jedi.
And the first Jedi murder that starts off the series.
Yep.
So it's only murders in the Star Cruiser.
Steve Martin and Martin Short.
I regret nothing.
That's good.
I miss the Galactic Star Cruiser.
I think my favorite thing about this is in the trailer, the way that they shoot the red lightsaber. You're sitting there and you're like, holy crap, is this the first red lightsaber that a lot of these Jedi have seen? Like, ever. Like, are we going to get this leading up to somebody like a Plagueis?
Well, because within the 3 books, I'm partially into the 3rd book in the 3rd main trilogy of the High Republic book series right now, and there's no mention of Sith. There's no mention of the dark side. There's mention of being tempted by darkness, right. But they don't come out and say, dark side of the force or anything like that. And the main protagonists at this point are the Nihil, which is space pirates. And so from a High Republic standpoint, like, this is the first that even we're seeing out of the context of the books of someone on the dark side over there.
Yeah. But like, the trailer makes it look so cool. It makes it look very gritty Star Wars, your Rogue Ones, your Andors. Like, it's very much the Star Wars that a lot of people want to see. It's the Star Wars. It's the war.
It's not the lightsaber fights, right? It's very, very, very choreographed. I made a comment earlier before we started. It literally looks like a kung fu movie in some senses. Yeah.
Like, it seriously is one of those things where, like, Rogue One, one of the reasons why it's my favorite Star Wars movie is it is the war aspect of the Star Wars. Like, it is dogfights, it is espionage, it's everything you want to see in a war film. And I feel like the way that they showed some of the shots in the trailer, that's the kind of thing we can expect from Acolyte, and I'm really excited for it.
Yeah. It's nice to see them starting to cross some of these borderlines that they've put up. Like, before, it was very we're gonna stop at this moment. To use a
different franchise, it's very similar to the growth of the other Star franchise after the original creator was no longer part of the picture, and they could expand the universe to show more realistic things, a more realistic point of view, not just like, here's the idealistic part of the future, but then we got gritty gas station in space, we got Lost in space, we got back at the beginning of space, and all these other things that show different aspects of the franchise. And I think that we're getting that now, where they're taking those chances to kind of show you the grittier side, the gritty underbelly of the universe. It's not, either the High Republic at its best or even the New Republic at its best. But, like with Andor and especially with Rogue One, there's a lot of gray in the middle. Yeah. And a lot of people live there and are just trying to keep their heads down and survive.
Well, I think that's the really cool part is we're starting to see some of the Empire's wins, right? Yeah. We don't necessarily see. We don't get to see a lot of the successes of the dark side. We don't get to see your Darth Vader triumphs. We don't see Darth Bane or Plagueis coming out as these huge badass villains and experiencing what they could really do as villains. Because really, we didn't even see that with Kylo, right? Like, True. There was nothing super big and bold about Kylo. You had Snoke being a mastermind puppet that was actually Emperor Palpatine. And when Snoke is dead, then whiny boy goes out and easily becomes swayed by the light side pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
He was troubled.
He's just a troubled teen with daddy issues.
He's just a poor boy.
Nobody loves him.
Nobody loves
him. Oh my gosh. That just reminded me of something. I saw this video on TikTok that was someone behind Chewbacca in Disneyland, and all of a sudden he says, "Why'd you let Han die?" And you just see Chewie snap back and look at him.
Oh.
Shots fired.
Wow.
It was bad. But yeah, you really don't see the gritty of the enemy.
Right.
And so it's nice to be able to experience some of that, even if it's just a little of it. Right?
It's something new.
Moff Gideon, especially like during Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
It was great to see that darker side.
Yeah.
And see the triumphs of him coming through and being able to battle, a huge Mandalorian fight, ultimately lost, but still and he's not dead because he probably had a clone or something, or that was his clone. Who knows? Clones are clones, it's a struggle.
The struggle is real.
There's a Moff Gideon without a mustache somewhere. So it's just nice to see that change in Star Wars that's growing with its audience, and it's starting to mature more and more with us, because that's what the audience wants to see.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I don't think Kathleen Kennedy had anything to do with it. It was all Dave Filoni.
We may never know.
Until she gets fired someday. Please. Sorry, I'm not a Kathleen Kennedy fan.
It doesn't show at all.
No. But no, I'm excited to see where that goes. I'm excited to see if Acolyte brings in some of the characters from the book. I think it would be because they didn't really say any names in the trailer.
No.
There's no names posted on IMDb yet. But it would be amazing to see.
They're on Wikipedia.
Oh, they are?
Mm-hmm.
Where?
Here.
Is it under?
It's under the Acolyte.
Okay. Let's see
They
what we got here.
They do have names listed.
Okay. Episodes written by writing. Where's just characters? Where are you seeing that?
Cast, like third thing from the top, third topic.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Okay. As May, Soul, Kmir, Chekilon, Yord Fondar. None of these names are from the books. That is unfortunate.
But it also gives them latitude.
It does.
They're not locked into what the characters in the book have done or expected to do. So it gives them the latitude to bring those characters in without tying these people that we're going to follow to their stories.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and something you have to consider too is those books are considered canon to the story that continues in the show. So if they did, like you were saying, if they put those characters in, then they're putting themselves in a corner and they have to tell the story of the books on screen. Which would be cool, but that's not where they're going.
Yeah. I don't know where they're becoming more book driven during this phase. You would think that they would want to reference the book for sales, though, from a marketing perspective.
Yeah. And you might get that. You might get like, oh, this is just a different bunch of Jedi that aren't part of the campaigns that are going on in space.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good place to call it. I am curious what our listeners think about the High Republic. Where do you guys think it's going from here? For Tales of the Jedi, what do you guys think is Omega's next phase? Should they do a new spin-off show that's showing her fighting as part of the rebellion? What do you guys want to see next in the big chase of animation? Because animation's making a huge comeback right now, I feel like.
Don't call it a comeback. It's been here for years.
It's been here. It's just been waiting to be seen.
But come and join the conversation in our Discord channel, discord.ageofgeek.com. We'd love to hear your input and your comments.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you guys. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
And with your spirit.
This has been an Age of Geek media production.